Okay, I'll start with the so even with the PowerPoint, they took away all of the animation. There's no movements or anything like that. It's just one slide after another. Okay, so today we're going to be looking at the reorder paragraph. And as I said earlier, you get about 2 or 3 of these. And the way the point structure works is so I'm only going to focus on the fives today because that's the most points. And because some of them it can be 4. So this is what it actually looks like. But so I'm going to go over the overview of the reorder paragraph and then give you strategies. I won't be too long. All right, so how many are there? 2 to 3. Okay, so you can get that from the file where you download it. I'm sorry, I didn't even answer your question. How to download? Everyone else has downloaded it, right? Or if you know, how can you explain? Because on mine it says file sharing, and then I click on it, and then I can download the overview file that I uploaded. All right. So this is what it looks like when you see it on the exam, but this is actually taken from the PTE practice exam. So it might look a little bit different on the actual exam. But so right on the screen or anything like that. Because when you're doing the practice, you have it in front of you on a piece of paper. You can write notes and things like that or scribble. But on here, you're going to be making mental notes. So you want to drag it to the right side, move it up and down, and put it into order. So a lot of times, the hardest thing is to find the order and sequence of what we do first. Okay, so the first thing that we want to do is establish the process. Okay, let me check if there's any questions. Thank you for giving me some instructions. All right, so what I try to do is I try to save time. So if you have an overview inside the printout that I gave you, the PDF file, it gives you the overview of the time you have for reading, and if you you have about 2 minutes for each task. And I hate reading myself. I don't like to read, or I do, but not academic PTE stuff or IELTS stuff. So I always try to find shortcuts. I don't want to read. And for this one, I don't read. The first thing I do is eliminate. I don't read any of the sentences. Okay, so I avoid reading each sentence. I identify the topic sentence. Okay, so that's what we're going to be focusing on first, is identify the topic sentence. And once we identify the topic sentence, we want to identify the references to each other. Okay, and they will reference each other. Okay, so finding the first sentence is probably difficult for some people. So that's why we want to go over the strategies on how to do that. But first, you got to understand what is topic sentence. If you're writing essays for the PTE, you should know what a topic sentence is, because for the body of a paragraph, your first sentence should establish the topic. Okay, so inside that topic, it should be a general overview. Okay, and the rest of the paragraph should support that overview and have specific examples in that first sentence. Okay, so if you see an example, then absolutely just eliminate. That's not going to be the first sentence. All right, so moving along, things you want to identify first. Okay, I'll go with the least common ones, and I'll go all the way to the most common ones that you'll see. Conjunctions. We don't use conjunctions to start a sentence, but sometimes they might try to find a way to start a new sentence with a conjunction. Here are some examples of conjunctions. When you see these, when you see this as the first word of the sentence, eliminate, jump on to the next one, stop reading. Don't even bother reading the whole sentence. For what? Just so you can find out it can't be fun, waste your time on that. All right, so make a note of the conjunctions. The next one, time sequence. This is not going to identify what's first, but it will give you an idea. It'll give you an idea of what follows each other. Okay, so when you have a time sequence sentence, it's very important. Anytime they give you time, it's a key indicator of sentences will go in sequence of each other. So when you see these, make sure you follow the sequence in time from usually the oldest to the most recent time. Okay. Next, conjunctive adverbs. Okay, so if you're writing paragraphs, writing essays, writing the summaries, familiar with using conjunctive adverbs. Okay, so with conjunctive adverbs, oftentimes they're used to start a new sentence, but they are referring to something else. So when you see a conjunctive adverb, it doesn't come first. It can't come first. However, they will try to trick you. There is a way, it can come first. Okay, so that's what you want to pay attention to. And you want to pay attention to that comma. Okay, when you see a conjunctive adverb in your reordered paragraph, if the comma follows the conjunctive adverb, sorry, when I say conjunctive adverb, it's these words, furthermore, however, therefore. When you see those conjunctive adverbs, it is referencing something else. It cannot come first. So that starts with that. Skip it, jump it. Do not read it anymore. Stop wasting your time. Okay? Conjunctive adverb and the comma is it can come first because within that. Okay, so I'm going to give you an example of that. This is a sentence with a comma right after the conjunctive adverb. As a result, the environment has been drastically impacted by air pollution. Sorry. So the comma is immediately after. So it's actually referring to something else as, okay? So when you see that, move on. Once I read as a result, I stop reading and I go on to the next one. Okay? So what does it look like when it's referenced within the same sentence? As a result of air pollution, the environment has been drastically impacted. So now you actually see that the comma came later, or sometimes they'll even use it without the comma. When you see a sentence like this, literally this is establishing the topic of the sentence, and this will come first. So don't automatically assume, oh, they say as a result. Results can't come first. That's why I put this one as an example, because it can come first. Okay? Next, what else are we looking for? Time reference. Time reference is very important. It doesn't really establish what can go first, but again, because they are referring to time, an idea of where you want to position it. Okay, so you want to make sure the time goes in order. At times, they might. I have seen a reorder paragraph where the time didn't go in order, and the reason is because they're talking about a specific topic, like jeans, I believe. They were saying that these times they're talking about jeans, and then they change older time and start talking about jackets, and that's why the topic changed. So they will still try to trick you, but most of the time you just follow the sequence of time. Okay, so time reference is very important. But that brings me to the other one. It's still referring to time, but this is an overview of time. So a lot of times people get confused when they see the overview reference to a specific time. Okay, so if you see this here, this is an overview of time. If you look at the previous one, it's actually establishing a specific time, like 1904. You know exactly when it is. Or in the early 90s, that's still a very tight area of time and at the beginning of the year. So mentioning a specific period of time, that's going to give you the idea of the sequence. But when they mention an overview, this should come first. This is giving you the timeline that they want to talk about. And most often after that, they're going to talk about the beginning of that time. So when you see the overview throughout history or historically, that's the whole period that they're measuring. So they're going to give you something else at the beginning, but this is establishing the overview, the main topic. Okay. Maybe some of you already know this, and I'm just repeating because I can see somebody jumped off, so they're probably thinking, I already know this. All right, so moving on. This is the example. In 1904, the city proceeded with the construction of a subway system? Maybe it can go first, but because they reference time, you got to read throughout the other parts of the paragraphs to see if they have an older time or a later time. So you just follow that sequence. The example of an overview of time. In the last 100 years, subway systems have been introduced to cities. So this is pretty much establishing what they're going to be talking about. So when you see that overview, it should give you an indication that, okay, this is going to be the topic sentence. Okay. Time is the best thing. It gives you a lot of clues when you're dealing with that. But next, we're looking at articles. The ones that I showed you previously, those are you're not going to see that in every paragraph. Okay, those are the uncommon ones. But now when we get to articles, this is common. You will see it in almost every single paragraph. Every single reorder paragraph you're going to be dealing with. And I put the first. When you see the, stop reading. Go to the next sentence. The cannot come first. Okay? But there's one exception. One exception. When you have the plus a noun, okay, it means it's referring to something else. It cannot come first. If it's just the first time, they're going to use a or an. And for the second time, then they're going to be specific and say the. So the cannot be the first sentence. However, there's one exception. If the noun that comes after the is a proper noun, for example, a name, okay, then that means it's establishing a topic that's going to go first. If it's the plus a proper noun, capital, basically something with a capital name. Okay, so that's when they try to trick you with the. Pay attention to that. Next, pronouns. Obviously, when you see pronouns, I think you guys are, if you know about the test, this should be familiar to you. Pronouns, it's not going to come first most of the time. So same thing with the article the. There's one exception that they try to trick you with, the pronouns. The pronouns, if you read it and you notice that the pronoun is referenced to itself inside the same sentence, that can come first, and most likely it will come first. So if you take a look at the example sentences, first I'll give you this pronoun. It is the main cause of civil unrest. Can anybody tell me what it refers to? Probably not, because I don't know what read this sentence, you don't know what it is. So once you see that it, if it starts off on the sentence, you know, stop reading, go to the next one, save time. It cannot come first. Okay? But what about this sentence? Police brutality has increased, and it is the cause of civil unrest. What is it? Police brutality. So if referenced within the same sentence, so that's establishing that topic should be able to go first. Okay? So those are some of the things that you want to be looking for when you do the reorder paragraphs. The time is a key indicator, but it's not going to be every single paragraph. So the most common things you're going to be looking for. Thank you. I don't know when you typed it, but it just showed up. The most common thing that you're going to be looking for are articles and pronouns. Okay, so I'm going to show you some examples, and I want to identify whether or not each sentence can go first. And you guys can just help me out by typing out the word that shows you it cannot go. Okay. So here, if we look at the first sentence, I'm going to be able to draw on here. Transparency, close. All right, so if you look at number one, clearly, and then you keep reading, can this one go first? Indication that this one can't go first. I think that the chat might be a little bit slow from the previous experience, but I'll highlight it for you guys then. change the color. Okay. For me, when I see this right here, I'll stop reading. Once I see that, I'm done. I'm not going to read anymore, especially with that comma. I mentioned it earlier. Okay. So when you see that comma, expert in the first sentence. Experts. You say this is the first sentence? Okay, so I'll get to that in a second. When I get to this, I'm going to skip it. I will not use this as first. And then when I get to the second one, once I see once I see that and then is this capital? No, it's not. I'm done. I'm stopping. I'm not going to read anymore. Okay, so this is indicator. Right away, it would have taken me maybe 2 seconds to identify these two as not, okay? And then we'll go down to here, experts. Someone said experts can go first. Once you see, if you're looking for key indicators, you want to keep going because I don't see any key indicators to exclude this. So far, yes, from experts, it can go first. And then all of a sudden, I come across the, okay? And then when you have the, and you have that rock, capitalized? No, I mean, rock is just the rock. So when you say the rock formation, it's already an indicator like, oh, nah, this can't come first, okay? But if you just want to confirm, we can go down and look at maybe this word, it. So if we say it, what is it? So it's referring back to the rock formations, right? So it's referring to itself, know when they reference this. So we cannot use this as the first one. Okay, so let's just keep going. This sentence, if we scroll down, I mean, not scroll down, read along, we have anyone who has ever visited the, oh man, we got the here, it cannot go further. However, wait a minute, this is capital. Okay, so remember I was saying that if they have a proper noun after a the, proper noun means it's a name. If they have a proper noun after the, there's a high chance that it can go first. Okay, so this is a key indicator. Let's keep going. Oh man, I see it again. What is it? So it is one of the most incredible. Okay, so it is referring to what? Grand Canyon. Okay, so the it is it's okay. It's referring to something in itself, and it's referring to a name, Grand Canyon. It's better than this it referring to a rock formation that we have never talked about. Okay, so this one has a high chance of going first, but let's exclude the last one before we pick it. Can we go right away? You see the, okay, the, and then you have geological. Okay, so that will eliminate it for me. For me, right away, I will not pick that as first. I won't even read the rest of the sentence. Okay, so going through this, I would have been, yes, I would say that as well. I would say that this one will be my number one. Okay, the reasons why I excluded it. Okay, and if they all connect back to what I was mentioning earlier with the proper noun, with the reference to the article, okay, and then I'm gonna clear this, and I want this to be my number one. Okay, all I ever talked about earlier, I mean, was establishing number one. So what do we do next? Okay, so now that we have established number one, we want to look at some of the clues that they gave us. Okay, they already gave us clues. But before we do that, for the first sentence, can you guys identify my nouns? What are my nouns in here? I don't know if the chat is taking a long time, so I'll just underline the nouns if you guys follow along. So we have obviously the Grand Canyon. Oh, this color is not good. Let me. Okay, so we have the Grand Canyon as one of the nouns. And then we also have incredible sights. We can even go in the world if we wanted to establish the whole noun. Okay, so we have two things mentioned here. One is the Grand Canyon, and the other one's incredible sights, and they're sentenced back to each other. Okay, they usually reference back to each other, but I don't want to read. I hate reading these kind of things, so I want to use process of elimination to read the least amount as possible. So earlier they gave us some clues. This one said the result, right? As we were reading it, we saw the result, and over here they gave us the geological process. Rock formations, thank you. And then experts, the second sentence. Okay, so let's look at that together. Okay, so I'll either prove you right or I'll prove you wrong. Sorry. Okay, so but we do have this here, the geological process and the result. Can you logically, which one has to come first, the process or the result? Hopefully you guys are saying that the process has to come first, right? Logically, the process should come before a result. So that tells me when I'm identifying my second sentence, I will not read this one. Thank you. Thank you. Exactly. Process should come first. So that tells me, well, if process has to come before the result, there's no point in reading this to see if it can come second. That's a waste of my time, right? Okay, but they also give us additional clues. They give us additional clues, even by not reading the article. I blink my eyes and I scan through. Thank you, thank you. I think the chat is really slow. I'm not sure if you just typed it after. Either way, it's fine. But feel free to keep typing along. But just by looking at it, glancing over it, you can see something that clearly jumps out at you. And let me make it this jumps out at me. I love it when I see time. Okay, when I see time, that's going to give me a very big indication that they're going to have a sequence of something. Okay, so when you have 2 billion years, we need to look to see if there's anything else that refers to time. So by just scanning through the sentences, obviously we're not going to look at this one. We're not going to look at this to refer to time. So by just scanning through, if there's anything time, we're not looking at this one. So we're only looking at this one. Do you guys see this here? Since then, right? We have a since then. That is referring to time. Okay, since is usually used in present perfect, and it is used in present perfect right here in the tense, referring to time. So if you have a since then in 2 billion years, there's nothing else that refers to time. Which one has to come first? A since then or 2 billion years? I hope you said 2 billion years, right? 2 billion years has to come before since then. So what does that tell me? Come number 2, right? Because I know that this has to come after 2 billion years. The result has to come after the geological process. I'm only left with 2 options for number 2. Okay, I haven't read anything yet, but I know number 1, and I know I only have. Thank you. I only have 2 options for number 2. Okay, so from reading these 2 things, which one of these sentences refer to Grand Canyon and incredible sights? There you go. Thanks. 2 billion is 2 billion is. All right. So if you look at these 2 sentences, let me change the color. I can't change it back. I'll just leave it as red. What is this? What does this mean? It refers directly back to incredible sights. Remarkable appearance is basically the same word as incredible sights. And what is it? What is it? It is Grand Canyon, or it remarkable sights. The remarkable sights belong to the Grand Canyon. If the words directly refer back to the previous sentence, that is the connection. You have to look for a direct connection most of the time. Sometimes they'll jump, okay? For example, the next one, they're going to jump, but let me just show you. So if we have this as number one, this as number two, okay? So geological process has to come after this. So we know that this has to be three because we already know that since then is after 2 billion years. I haven't read anything yet, right? I'm not reading, I'm just reading the clue. So we know that the since then has to come after. So this is 4 because we know the result has to come after process, and this is 5. Okay? I think this one will be easy for us to avoid. Anytime I can avoid reading, I'll avoid it. As an example, okay, so the logic makes sense to me, and then I'll keep going. Because in reality, you have about, okay, if you're able to save time in the other tasks, then you can have more time here. But if you use a lot of time on all the tasks, then we got to find a way to save time. Okay, so by not reading everything, that helps me. This is how I got my order. But if you feel like, okay, I haven't used a lot of time to do this, then on your final run through, then read everything. That's when I would read. I would not read in the middle. On this one, okay? So we'll do one more together, and I'll let you do one by yourself. Next. Is it okay? All right, so hope you guys can see this. Okay, great. Because the slide is frozen. Let me double check it. Yeah, it's completely gone now. All right, so I'll just use. All right, so for this one, for number 1, can I go first? If you look at, okay, great. I'm just reading the comments. If you look at number 1, the first sentence, I see the it. Once I see that it, I'm done. I'm not going to read anymore, okay? But the clear indication that they are referring to time, though. So you see that it was. Now here we go with the result. Do we see a comma? Yes, I do. Forget about it. Move on, okay? If I see that comma, I'm not going to keep reading anymore. In the late 1900s, time reference it might be able to go first. If I see that in late 1900s, because this says it was a time, it might be this time. So it was referring back to 1900. So this might be first. So I'll come back to it and read the whole thing if I don't eliminate anything else. Okay. Whether these systems, stop reading. Once I see this, these, forget about it. I'll stop reading. Okay. That tells you it cannot come first. Next one. Over the last half century. What is that? Over the last half century. Remember we talked about this earlier. It's a overview of time. So usually an overview of time is referring to time, and then this is a specific time, and this is referring to time again. We have 3 sentences that refer to time. I'm assuming because I didn't read anything else yet. That's a clear indication when you have the overview. This should come first, okay? Because it's establishing the timeline, the entire timeline. And I would assume in the late 1900s is the beginning of the timeline, okay? So that's what they want to give you an overview and then start with the topic. It's the same as how you write in the essays. You want to overview in your, and then you start describing why you said that. So that's the rules of writing. So it's not my rule, it's just a rule of writing. So they have to follow that. So we use that to our advantage to find the topic sentence. So I would say this is number 1 because of the overview. Okay. Yes, thank you. I agree. So let me change the color because black is too serious. I would say this is number 1. Okay. 1900. Any other time that comes before, okay? There's this one, but let's just scan through if there's any other time reference. Whoa, 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 look at this. Now. So if you have over the last half century, overview of time, and then these two look like at the beginning of it, and then this is the present. Present has to be last. My guess, I'm just using my logics. I would say this has to come last, but let's keep going. So that's the reference to time. Let's see whether these systems maintain. Nope, I don't see any reference to time. I didn't really read it. I just scanned through it really fast. Okay, so I would eliminate this as the next one. Okay, and I really like these two because it's directly referring to the time. This has no reference to time. I won't read this. So we need to establish which one of these directly connects to the content down here. But we can read each other, read both of these sentences now because the information has to connect. So it was a time when managers had to take a critical look at every aspect of the production process and make improvements where necessary. They're talking about production process. And there's nothing in here talking about production process. Okay? This is talking about organic farming becoming a driving force in the world's food market. So not really doing production. How about here? In the late 1900s, food manufacturers were challenged by the organic community. There you go, organic community, organic farming. So it feels like this clearly establishes the beginning of the start of the organic farming change. Okay, so it's referring back to that. So I would go with 1 and then 2. Okay, 1 and then 2. But because this is still referring to time and it has to refer to some time, you can't say it was a time and then don't refer to something before that. So we can't have anything else come first before we use this because this is referring to a time. And once if we state this as number 3, for example, I shouldn't have done that. Oh, right, now I know how to use this. If I state this as number 3, then this would make no sense because what time are you talking about? Right? Thank you, organic farming. Oh my goodness, the chats are so slow. Okay, so I would not state this as 3. I would state this as 3. And the reason is because we have to use this. It was a time. Okay, and now we're left with 2, but we saw this now earlier. Within that timeline, now has to come last because it's referring to the present. And this doesn't refer to any time. So I want to make sure that this refers to this, okay? Just to have peace of mind, I want to make sure this is number 4 and it has to refer back. And how do they do that? Remember they said production process? And then here we see, where did it go? Systems, okay? So we're looking at a process or a system. I would say the process is a system of something. So I would say that the words look like they connect to each other. Okay. But the now is a very big indicator that it's the present. So it has to come first. So this is how I would do the order. Okay. I hope that makes sense where you're using logic, you're using the key indicators to find number 1 and try not to read everything unless you have to. And that's usually at the end. And remember, when you move it over, it's going to flow down. When you move it to the side, it's just going to flow down and then just read it down top to bottom. And hopefully that makes sense for you when you read it. Okay. I'm going to clear this out. And then I'm going to move to the next page and let you guys give it a shot. Okay. So I'll give you a few minutes and take a look at this. Or not few. I hopefully this chat thing is faster. I'll put 2 minutes on the board and 2 minutes on the board like I'm playing sports. All right. So give it a try and just type your answers and then we'll go over it together. Like there. If we go over it together, let me see. Where's my whiteboard? There it goes. All right. So process of elimination. once we see the fear of criticism from colleagues, nah, I'm not going to go with that, right? Can't go first. However, did it come with a comma? Not go over. Okay. It seems that the, come on, it has the it and the. Okay. Uh, I'm checking the answers right now, but we'll go over it together now to see which one is right. I have to match it to the sequence, but let's just order it. Let's reorder it together. Okay, so it seems that the lack of, actually, the lack of is always together. So that's not really a reference to a particular noun. When you guys write your essays, I always see people write lack of without the or you gotta have that article. Okay, but the it seems should tell you it can't go first. And then we get the despite. Okay, we can start a sentence with despite and then even with despite the fact that or despite something. But you see how it goes all before they state the comma. So that usually tells you what I mentioned earlier. This has a high chance of going first, right? So let's eliminate the last one. Interestingly, there you go, that comma. So right away, I think you guys were fast with that. Everybody says for is number one. So you have for as number one, which is excellent. Okay. So what are my keywords in number one to tell you the topic? Like what is the main topic of this? Well, they're not happy, right? Key earners are not happy. And everybody says 4-3, 4-3. Why? Because in here, the main reason for their dissatisfaction. What does dissatisfaction mean? Somebody says synonyms earlier. Dissatisfied, not happy. Okay, so you're not happy. So dissatisfied. Okay, so this would be number two. Okay, because that refers right back to it. But when we're looking at the process of elimination, okay, so this is a key indicator. Okay, it is not. It is not. Okay, what we want to look at is when you see someone, when they say something that is not, then they probably tell you something that it is. So logically, when you're speaking, would you tell somebody something that is not and then something that it is first? Or would you tell them something that it is and then you tell them something that is not? Logically, you shouldn't be telling someone that something is this and then it's not that. It should be something it's not this and it's that. It's right. It's the wrong first and then the right. So what does that even mean? So I would say that this has to come before the main factor. Okay? Because this is telling you what it's not, so this is telling you what it is. Okay? So for number three is between this one and this one for me. That's what I would look at. Okay? So between these two, which one refers to the topic first? However, most of these workers would not consider career alternatives. Interesting is not the risk prevents this move. What is this move? What are they moving to? Okay, what are they moving? Where are they moving to? Well, career alternatives. What does that even mean? Career alternatives means changing jobs. That's the move. Okay, so this is referring to that. So I would say this is 3. Okay, so what is this? 4-3-2. 4-3-2. Who has 4-3-2? There you go, 4-3-2. Fiona. There you go, 4-3-2. Okay, because the move or career alternative means to change jobs, to find another job. So that is the move that this sentence is referring to. Okay, so if this sentence is referring to that move, then this is 4, because this is something that is not, and this is something that it is. Okay, so that was the logic that you want. 4, 3, 5, 1, 2. I can't. 4, 3. No, yeah. So this one. All right. So it's 4, 3, 4, 3, 2, 5, 1. 4, 3, 2, 5, 1. Okay. So Fiona, if you guys look on the chat board, that she has that answer. So there's a sequence of words that always refer back to each other. The time is very important. Okay, so see, I highlighted here that the career alternatives in this move, that was a key indicator that connected to each other. And then when it said that interesting, it is not, then that means they're going to tell you something that it is. You shouldn't be saying something that it is and then something that is not. It's kind of strange to talk like that. So you want to use the logic to present the information as well. Okay. Any questions for me? I hope that was helpful for the reorder paragraphs. I think there's a lot of content information you can find on the on YouTube and stuff for like practice material. But yeah, usually I share the files with my students of all the different tasks. But the reorder paragraph is supposed to be difficult, but as you can see, there's actually specific things that can identify number one for you and then key indicators. But if you guys have any questions for me, feel free to ask me now, and I'll turn off the share screen.